Live stream on the YouTubes. All right. We're back. We've been on hiatus for just a little bit. We had some things happening in our own lives, and we had the Super Bowl last week, and we just took a 2-weeker. I mean, sometimes you just gotta call it, right? Just take a little time. But we're back Sunday, February 19th. You got GP and you got Bags and you got
tweeting out the link, Bags.
Yeah, I'm linking it everywhere right now.
Perfect.
Right now. I'm always doing that when I'm doing the intro.
I know, I'm sorry. My bad.
You're just impatient. It's okay. I love you regardless. And
like
while
2
I'm
weeks,
doing
I don't
this,
know, man. I've just been antsy.
While I'm doing this, I just want to give a shout out, thoughts and prayers, and just best vibes to our friend Pratt. I know going through some things right now, but we love you, man, and hang in there. So yeah. But we're live with TA report. I have twatted it out. I'm in the midst of tweeting it out. But right before we came on, as we always do, we're always talking this and that. And Nick brought up, how far down are we going to short XLE? Great question. I'll pull that up first. We're looking at the S&P 500, the SPY right now, but let's look at XLE. It's been no secret that GP and I have hated the XLE for a while.
June, baby, June.
And in general, energy stocks. But I think we're getting that breakdown. And last time that we did this, I said I would go from, once it breaks this like 84 down to about 70. I mean, that's not going to be a straight down line, but that's kind of where I see. But
I think 70 could be an easy flush. Like if these things roll, I mean, if they.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's only, what is that, 15-16% from there right now. So it's not, I mean, it's not that far, but that's not going to happen in one day.
Like, look at PXD. That thing looks like it's rolling back to 100.
Pioneer. Ooh.
Right? Like that thing looks like, I mean, I just see a lot of these.
With it's these, like, suboptimal, right? Yeah. It's suboptimal.
So like, we've been talking about this for a while. 2021 was peak earnings for tech. 2022 was the destruction of tech. 2022 was peak earnings for energy. Yep. 2023 will be the destruction of energy.
Preach.
I will say this because I fundamentally believe that it's a distribution pattern. It's been a very annoying distribution pattern, but that's what these patterns do. They get you, they lure you in and they spit you out, right? Like it's literally, and then people will be like, oh, what happened? And then, so like, I've been posting about it for 8 months now, and people have been mocking me, monkey. And you know, I think the warning is it's going to happen. I don't know when. I just see the pattern, right? So to me, Nick, we've talked about this at length, and right, and then like the day after I talk about it, it reverses higher for like 15%. It's like, oh, you see, like, so for me, this is still part of the larger distribution pattern here. You have oil that peaked in March of last year, and has continued to break down. I think oil goes sub 60.
Has just failed after failed since June, right? Like oil has led further down than XLE has. XLE is just now finally getting to the place of breaking down.
And it's still not broken down. And once it breaks down, it'll retest the breakout, right? So I still think there's time for this to play out. Maybe they do it. They've been distributing for so long. Maybe it just happens in 1-2 weeks. I don't know. I'm not betting on that by any means, but I'm betting on a short from the retest of the breakouts. This might have been the retest of the breakout, right? Like a throwback is what they call it. So it could be the one where it starts to dissolve down. But like if you're looking at this pattern from like a technical perspective, it had like a 300% move and then had this massive volume bar back in March when oil peaked. Massive volume bar in a really long uptrend is usually the first big sign of, oh crap, they're working on distribution. This is if you're like thinking about Darvis box theories, you're thinking about all these distribution patterns, you see this high level volume on downside breaks. I mean, downtrend changes and uptrend changes. So that's what you saw back in March. Then we continued to float a little bit higher. We did the same thing in the SPY and the Qs in 2021, right? We had this kind of high volume blow off top, and then we kind of drifted a bit higher because whatever. And then the breakdown happened. And then the breakdown was so vicious. So to answer your question, Nick, my conversation is because the difference between Qs and XLE is that the XLE actually did put in a base in this uptrend. So I'd be looking for 46 to 50, 51, 52 for an area of, now we can continue buying this, right? For the next leg higher. So like, I'm not this XLE is going to be the end of all time and it could be the worst play ever. I'm just saying it's a parabolic chart. It's a index that had a 400% move in 2 years.
Yeah.
Like, I don't care where it started from, but it's still a 400% move in 2 years. So to me, that parabola comes down and retest where there's a base. And everything in 2022 has taught me whatever base I have figured out is probably going to go lower than that.
Yeah. So
my target would be eventually, it's going to be a slow grind down, right? I think
to low 50s.
Like the mid 40s to low 50s is the area where I start looking for buyers to start stepping in. If you don't see that, Nick, like I don't like it could go further, but it's actually established a base here, right? It went sideways from like beginning of 2021 all the way until 2022 when it broke out. So you got a year-long base where it can retest. It's a supply zone. They're gonna check your will if you're gonna actually stay long or not, right? Like those diehard longs.
Yeah.
So that's where I think it's ultimately going. Where I'm not having that conversation when that happens.
Yeah, I mean, coincidentally, the 50%, it like just saying from like 2020 lows is kind of roughly in that like mid 50s. So ultimately you think that we're just correcting and setting up for another kind of another trend leg higher in the XLE?
I think so, but we'll have to see what the price action looks like when it gets there, right? Like that's my current bias. And what I would say is that almost all the good tech stocks, even the ones that were doing well, have cash, all that stuff, have had 78% corrections, retracements from the 2020 lows, right?
So
if it's possible that it can hit 38 too, if that's the area where ultimately it finds buyers. So I'd be looking for a hold in this area, but 38 is a possibility as well.
Let's say you throw let's say based on Friday's action, we got this from what I'm looking at, like a trend line break. Like let's say I'm throwing a short on and I'm putting my stop at like, I don't know, let's just say 90, 95, right?
Yeah.
Like if this thing makes new highs, like, fuck it, I'm out. But I'm just gonna throw on a small short position. Would you? like I would start peeling some off in the low 60s. I think
Yeah,
is
well-
kind of where I'm like near term is kind of what I'm looking, and then kind of that, bounce, little chop sideways, rolling down to basically kind of, exactly what you're kind of, if I have now a short bias based on this trend line break, like that's just kind of ultimately where I think I'm in agreement with you is kind of what I'm saying. So
Yeah. And so like shorting isn't easy, right? You'll have your big move down, whether you're part
Yeah.
of that when it happens, and then you'll have the major bounce and everyone will get bullish again, and then the rug gets pulled. So like it's gonna have to be well-timed shorts unless you have the stomach to, but that's regular trading mentality. You should be taking profits as you start to approach your, that's prudent, right? Like you shouldn't just be waiting for all I'm gonna cover my short at 38. If you short at 90 and you get to 67, you should be taking some profits. That's just normal.
I'm just gonna say 50 or bust. I'm gonna throw
Yeah,
on a short trade and say 50 or bust.
it's definitely possible. I just want to see the price action actually play out. The one thing I'm looking at, I think I mentioned it to you on StockTwits, is you see that MACD on the monthly, it's starting to curl down. Once that curl crosses over, and if you bring up Roku, if you bring up Square, if you bring up some of the high flyers, once that, or Netflix actually is another one. Once that MACD on the monthly crossed down, it was game over.
Yeah.
So that's what I'd be looking for on these things, and it's starting to curl down. So maybe it just doesn't cross down. It curls close, and so you got to see what the price action is. But so the question is whether the distribution pattern that's setting up here is part of a larger distribution pattern or a reaccumulation pattern, right?
Sure.
So that's what I'd be looking for here.
I mean, just looking at a monthly, like, the 4-year moving average is just starting to curl up. Like that's sitting at like 57. And that starts to curl again. Like I see a lot of kind of support, I'd be looking to kind of start nibbling long too, I think in like the low 60s, mid 50s.
Yeah, like you can do an equity short until the 67 and then use puts from there as a way to mitigate your risk, right? Like if that's how you want to do it, while you use the puts to help you accumulate long shares, right? Like that's the way to kind of handle it. So there's so many different ways to trade, that, Nick, that bags. So yeah, it's just interesting to see it all. Like I'm seeing a lot more everyone's bearish energy, and I'm like,
yeah, I mean, it could totally flip flop.
Yeah.
Monday we get a gap higher and couple point push. We'll see.
Did you see my Occidental and Amazon comparison chart?
No.
Bags, can you? I'm gonna send you the link.
Yeah. I was gonna say, just send me the link and I'll share it.
We're just in very kind of do or die time in a lot of these.
No, I think it's just rotation,
Yeah,
like that
totally.
to me is been the name of the game. And if you're looking at the 13 Fs that just got filed, dude, money managers and hedge funds are still buying stocks, right? Like in times, like if you looked at like the 13 Fs from like 2008 and 2009, they were not buying stocks.
Is it on your StockTwits, GP?
Yeah, I'm gonna send you the link in a second.
I might can find it.
It's from January 14th, but I got the link here.
Oh, that's a long way away. Send it to me.
I sent it in the chat.
Yeah, that's the way to do it, G Pizzle. Oh, and you hit tag monkey in it too.
Well, he was, he was being a bit of a troll, so.
All right, I'm gonna make it nice and big so we can look at her here. We should be able to see that now, right?
Can I revert my stock twist to the back to the old one? Did you say we could do that?
No, not anymore. They got rid of that option.
Oh man.
Yeah.
So like this is the comparison, and people got their pennies in a bunch over being a oil comparison to a tech stock, and like, oh, listen, the comparison is the distribution pattern. It's not the damn stock, people. But the distribution pattern, you see that big, like after Amazon moved whatever, like 50-60%, there was this massive volume bar that came in Amazon, and then it just pretty much went sideways to up, sideways to up, sideways to up before it just died, right? So you have a very similar, I have it highlighted with the two arrows pointing down, right? It's just this very similar big volume bar kind of, and then up, but not really going anywhere, and slowly showing signs of weakness as, momentum wanes and then it collapses. So in terms of Occidental, you'll potentially see a break of this trend line, and then when it gets low enough, the rumors of Buffett buying more, the only thing is Buffett can buy the company out all right, like straight out, right? But what you see here is that's the only X factor. But what you're seeing here is even after Amazon broke down, it came back and retested that uptrend line.
Yeah.
And then it died, right? So like momentum wanes and then it collapses. So that's what I was trying to show in this conversation, in this charting here. So this is where I think
Collapse cometh.
Yeah.
At some point, possibly, maybe not, right? Like, yeah, they are cash rich, but if you look at CVX, Chevron, they announced the biggest buyback ever, 75 billion or something like that. And then they started walking themselves back. It's like, oh, that's 75 billion over I don't know how many years and blah, blah, blah. And look at what it's done since it announced that buyback.
They all look the same.
Yeah.
They all look the same.
So yeah, enough about me from energy.
All right. We know that GP and I do not like energy. We've been wrong before, but we're sticking by our guns that we still don't like it. The question is, after the week we've had, I normally wait till the end of the pod to talk about this, but what do we like? I mean, I stepped in and bought some things on Friday. I mean, I might be jumping out in front of traffic here, but I bought my NVIDIA back that I sold higher. So I bought it lower. So that's a win. I bought my Soxel back that I sold higher and bought lower. My Labu, my 3-time leveraged biotech, I bought it back. It was basically a wash on it when I sold it, but I bought it back a little lower. So I kind of feel like I like those, but I don't have I'm not brimming with a whole lot of confidence on things I like. Again, I bought those, but that doesn't mean that I'm wild about the way the market's looking right now and setting up. So, boys, tell me I'm wrong. Tell me I'm right.
I think near term, I think we either chop sideways or see a little bit lower. Like I think we get like a 395-ish, 400 test at some point. At least I would like to hope so. It would push the McClellan into a negative 200 reading, in my opinion. I have a lot of feelers out there, enough to like force me to be at my desk. I did that intentionally to force me to be at my desk. Yeah.
Can
We're
I?
back to some
DraftKings,
mixed
Airbnb,
signals, though.
SMCI, Apple, Roblox.
I'm not seeing mixed signals.
TSCO is my favorite, by the way. I just wanted
Which
to throw
one?
that out there.
TSCO.
TSCO is my favorite.
Oh, Tesco. Yeah, they had a nice week.
Yeah. I love that weekly chart.
If you change the T with the C,
Cisco.
it had a damn well week too.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
All right, GP, tell me why Mr. Bull on our panel here. Tell me why I'm not seeing mixed signals.
Okay.
Because I'll tell you why I am, right? Because we have the VIX. Actually, the VIX was red Friday, which, you know, could be the back test of a breakout. It also could be, or the retest, sorry. Then we've got stuff like on the Qs and NVIDIA. We've got these exhaustion candles. Like you got these really high wicks and you sell them all the way back down. So tell me why I'm wrong, GP. Tell me why.
I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm saying I might be right.
Well, tell me why it's not mixed signals, or why you don't see them as mixed signals.
All right,
Because
so
I'm open to changing my mind here. I'm open to being more bullish as usual.
so look at the this is just me and symmetry and stuff like that. Look at the three candles that end in for the Qs here. End of August, first week of September, second week of September. It's three straight down candles. Just a little bit to your right, and
These right here.
after that, you got three straight down candles, right?
Yeah.
And then after the down candle, you had basically an outside candle bullish, and then an outside candle reversal down, and then we died, right? So what do we have now in the same spot? We have three candles up, and you have inside the inside week above the 50 SMA. Weekly 50 SMA.
That's hard
right?
to argue. That's hard to argue with.
Right. So you have a very kind of, so we had a rally into August that failed. And from a bearish perspective, you had a third candle down, you had an outside bull candle, and then the immediate next week after an outside bull candle, you had a destruction bearish outside candle again, right? And then we just kind of died. What you're seeing here is you had three bullish candles into the weekly 50 SMA or 200 SMA, is it? Which I can't remember which one it is. And then you've had back-to-back inside weeks, right above a moving average that we haven't been able to clear in well over a year. So I'm fairly bullish.
Yes,
here.
I mean, so we went above, right? We closed at, and then we stayed above. I mean, that's kind of bullish.
So yeah, we can fail at any point. I'm
Kinda
not
bullish.
arguing that conversation.
Nice clean retest on the daily off the 20.
And it's a lower high, right? So the doji that happened a few days ago, we had the similar doji on the same damn news, man. Inflation is higher than people want, but it's not trending higher ultimately, right? That's the news. Right. If you're boiling it down here. And the VIX conversation, I think it's a lot of people sold their assets. VIX is to protect your assets. VIX is underperforming because people don't have assets to protect. They're accumulating now. And then once they accumulate, maybe it'll be another few months.
So
VIX will start.
Conversely, right, we've had week after week, I think it was 14 or so straight weeks. I can count them 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14 straight weeks of failure from the VIX. Then last week we closed above that 9. And then what do we do this week? Right back down below. Yeah. So that's the opposite of what we see here, right? And the 50, is you clear it, you close at it, and you close above it. All right. I'm feeling better about my re-engaging longs all through this conversation.
Yes. Now I'll pull up the Dixie.
Yeah, Dixie, yeehaw.
Right? Like to me, this is the most bearish looking chart I can see, yet everyone I see on FinTwit is like bullish dollar, and I'm like, what am I missing?
You've got it. We've got the 21 and the 50 pressuring it from the downside. You have it resting basically between the 9 and the 50. I mean, you do have a little RSI upturn, but it's kind of flat. Not. I mean, I wouldn't be wildly bullish about this setup, but I've been wrong in the past.
Me either.
I will show you one that changes. I'm gonna send you another.
Now on the
link.
daily, it actually looks pretty good, but that could be a bear flag, right? That could wind up being a bear flag.
Another link. This is my Twitter post.
Okay, we're getting extra points from GP over here with the.
I'm trying to. I don't know. We talked about like the market's not bearish. It's not in a downtrend. It's been sideways for 6 months. That was back in December, right? And we've now pushed it. What's that?
I said, was it? That seems like forever ago.
Yeah, it was when Nick wasn't around. It was our Christmas special.
All right, here's said tweet.
Right. So like you have the EMAs on your chart. Mine is SMAs, but one by one, these SMAs are starting to roll over on the weekly, right? Like that's the 20. The 20 just crossed down between the 30 and the 40, and the 50 is still rising here, but I'm assuming it's gonna.
But it could,
if it tests that, it could fail there and come down. This is very similar to the pattern that we saw in a lot of tech stocks last year.
I'm going to play devil's advocate and go back to what Nick said. We could see some chop here because, like, look, your RSI is turning up a little bit. Your MACD's getting ready to turn up. That doesn't mean it's going to go straight up and reach all-time highs again, right?
Well, but what's the prevailing theme here, right?
So, yeah.
No, but look at the MACD on the monthly. What is the MACD on the monthly doing versus the weekly? And that's where it's important, right? So the monthly MACD is actually crossing down. While this is happening on a maybe short-term bullish scenario, you have the longer overarching time frame telling you that Dixie is potentially entering a pretty bearish state, and then you start to see the rollovers on the weekly, even though it's rising into a moving average. It starts to confirm, I think, in the next maybe a couple months, maybe a couple weeks. I don't know exactly what the time frame is, but to me, the monthly is bearish. So the weekly looks pretty bearish. So even if the daily is acting bullish, what's the overarching time frames telling you?
It's going to zero.
Zero.
No, so I don't think the dollar is weak either. I actually think the dollar is just underperforming compared to its counterparts.
I know, I'm being facetious. I don't think the dollar's going to zero.
So, like, I think other countries who are battling higher inflation than us. What was Brazil's inflation? Like 90?
Like a bajillion %. See, I'm being hyperbolic.
But I guess that's my point, right? Like these countries have to strengthen their currencies, and all of this stuff is tied. So if other currencies are strengthening, then the natural peg, which is the USD, tends to weaken.
So I should go YOLO on some NVIDIA calls for the weekly since they have earnings coming up.
No, NVIDIA on earnings is miserable.
So I should sell my NVIDIA. Thanks. Got it. Check.
It's just choppy, right? A lot of times it has a 5% higher and then 5%. It's just choppy. NVIDIA on earnings is never fruitful.
Yeah, I think it has a tend to be lower on earnings weeks from my recollection.
Especially after a big run up.
So I'm selling. Thanks. Selling first thing Tuesday. No market tomorrow. No market on Monday for those.
I just realized that. Literally, actually, yeah.
Who are tuning in late here. Dub C, our homeboy, is with us. What's up, dog? Let me go back to the charts here. Nick,
Yeah.
You listed off like 5 things that you liked. Go
Yeah.
back and give me another one.
I mean, I like how Roblox is acting. I think it's just doing a little bit of backfilling.
Roblox.
Um,
The brain will spread in the Roblox. I
why is
mean,
my chart all
that
messed
looks
up?
pretty good, actually. Hang on. I mean, I would buy that right now.
Why is my
Can I buy that right now?
yeah, I'm kind of looking at I'm looking at hold. I'd rather not see it fill its gap, but we'll see what happens.
Roblox
God,
trades like
what else
crap.
did I like?
That's one of your new market leaders, GP.
And what does it keep doing? It keeps putting in accumulation weeks.
I feel like SE is starting to bottom.
I called this one out the other day.
Yeah.
What day was that? Thursday night. I kind of like the way SE's shaping up.
It's kind of like wedging, up here at highs, or just kind of making like a range flag, whatever you want to call it.
I would buy this right here too.
I would
if
too.
I were so inclined.
It is testing the will of those buyers from mid-November. And I like it because it's holding so far.
Yeah, I like it. If you can get it from 65 to 62, I like it.
Yeah. It's a bottoming process, right? Like it's going to be ranges. It basically it's like versus moving averages and stuff. The way I kind of think about it is that stocks go up and down testing different supply zones, right? To see where there's weakness, where there's strength, etc. And so when they're in these kind of basing patterns, like this is what you're going to be looking for, is like, hey, when it comes to this point, are they coming in and buying again? And so far it seems that way. So you had this big massive earnings candle with a ton of volume, tells you that, okay, we've talked about this before, right? When volatility increases, it's the sign of a trend change ultimately.
Yeah.
I like it. I like it. I'm just staring at SE like hubba hubba.
What else you got, Nick?
Hey, WC says, how about that Airbnb, boys? And
Yeah,
that was a nice move on the old Airbnb, I gotta say.
Yeah.
No one's gonna like me for Airbnb, but
we know you're bearish.
No, not bearish. I think it tests the bull's patience. I think if you get opportunities, it's a great dip buy, but that big volume candle is nice, but it didn't have a lot in the base, so I think it's gonna annoy bulls.
This is the one thing I noticed, and this was on an old chart that I have, right where it stopped out, right there for the week.
Yep.
So I'd like to see it higher, or you're going to see maybe some chop. But yeah, it had a. I mean, you should never be upset that you have a 20% gainer in a week. You should never be mad about that.
No. But what was the post IPO low? I think it was like 120, right? I can see it going and testing that area, right?
Yeah.
I like Pure Storage still. PSTG. It's kind of coming off its pivot highs currently, but kind of same thing. I'd like to see it kind of hold the high 20s, low 30s. I don't have a position in it currently, but I am.
Isn't this one of the Kathy stocks, Nick?
Is it?
It sounds familiar.
I couldn't tell you. I feel I am so disconnected from the world right now. SMCI is another one that I like a lot right now too.
Yes,
especially for a near-term breakout.
Yeah, Nick, look at you getting those semis in you, buddy.
I mean, it's just kind of stair-stepping higher. Yeah.
So it's got that big volume candle though.
Got that big booty.
The big volume candle after a big move higher, right? It's since 2022, right? Yeah, 2022 lows, it's gone from 37 to 90. And I had that big volume. I'd be watching for potential failure here, Nick, for me.
Sure.
But
I'm just looking at the daily.
yeah.
it'd be
For
a-
trades, it's fine. I'm just thinking
Yeah.
of like a bigger picture, right?
Totally.
And it had that. It kind of failed that double top breakout, essentially.
Yeah, the only reason I wasn't like too hard on it, that I was just, I don't know. I was just trying not to be too hard, not hard on it.
Yeah.
Kathy
so
no
like,
longer owns Pure Storage, by the way.
You're doing what, SMCI, or are you talking? You're talking about SMCI, right?
I am, yes.
Yeah. I
But
just
now,
didn't-
if you're looking at like one of these type of breakout plays, pull up CDW.
CDW.
The old techs.
Oh yeah.
This is corporate spending, guys. This is it broke out to all-time highs on the weekly candle.
I think you said something about CDW a few weeks back.
I did. And to me, one of the old school kind of, this is my corporate spend model.
How does IBM look?
It looks like IBM.
Yeah.
23 years of nothing and counting.
Yeah, Jesus.
Microsoft's holding the 50 on the weekly.
I like Microsoft.
I like Mr. Softy. I like a soft touch, you know.
Just been trading like a penny stock, so
I mean, yeah.
What else is
Oh,
corporate?
really?
Cisco.
Cisco looks. I can't believe I'm saying it. It actually looks like an inverse head and shoulders breaking out.
Yeah, it looks
so,
pretty good.
on a
Not
much
gonna
larger
lie,
time
I've
frame.
given Chuck Robbins a whole lot of shit the past couple of years, but it actually looks pretty good finally.
So what I'm also thinking is, as we digest,
Chuck owes me $100 though, by the way.
as we digest the tech earnings that just came through, I think the sector that's been sideways for a long time is that XBI sector. So if money was going to be rotating through these cycles, XBI went 4 or 5 days after the golden cross, after the 50 crossed the 200 on the daily. We had a check back to the 50 SMA, which is fairly typical once you get that golden cross, as like, it's that, are you really going to be bullish or not, right? And it held for 5 days and then broke out on Friday.
I like it.
So I can see this being the hot sector for the next few weeks, right? Until we start
do it.
approaching tech earnings again.
I like it.
Me too.
I'm in the Labu, so you know I like it.
Yeah. Which
Got that baby back at 750 after I sold it for like 8. I love it.
is awesome. I made a mistake on Labu. I bought it like in the 5s and then went to 11, and I should have just sold everything, but I didn't. And then it's been sideways for 4 months. It's still pretty good gains in
Shit
in
happens. I
yeah.
mean, we all make mistakes, GP. You can't beat yourself up.
No, yeah, it's doing well though, so no complaints. I like Meta.
And did you see they're going to launch a subscription they announced today? So that's going to be bullish.
That's a pretty solid 3-week candle there. Above a moving average that's flattening and starting to slightly curl. Testing the bulls, whether they're really committed to the game here or not. But I like where it's
Oh,
holding.
looking back, Meta at $100. Should
Yeah.
have maybe thrown a couple darts out there just as a
90.
long term. Yeah, fucking A. What was I
Yeah,
thinking?
and Nick,
My hatred for Meta got in the way of that.
the insane part of Meta is it also didn't base below the gap. It based in the gap. I was like,
Yeah.
holy crap, this is strong, right? Like, that's impressive.
Yeah.
Normally, when stocks gap down like it did, it will base below the gap for 6
Yeah.
months, 12 months, 18 months. And it said, nah, I'm good. I'm gonna base in the gap for all
Here's
you
your
guys.
here's your little flag and go. Gap straight up and go, bitch.
Yeah. And that was I missed it, and right into earnings, it closed over, I think, the 200 day, and it just took off, right? Like it was just something I missed completely. So, but it would have been a nice trade.
Yeah, Nick, I'm with you. My disdain for them would not allow me to do it. Sometimes I miss opportunity because of that, but I don't beat myself up over it.
Not too worried.
Like
else do I
Netflix, like I never want to get in Netflix because, geez, who would want to be part of, the stockholder of that company?
Yeah, no, it's just brutal, man. It's terrible.
I
that-
couldn't even keep it together. I was waiting for GP just to defend vigorously, and he just went with it.
No, it's just a miserable trader, right? Like it's like, oh, look, it's gonna break. No, no. Oh, yeah, no. Oh, no. And then earnings comes and it either does what it does and does what it does.
Speaking
but-
of Tesla, let's not look. Yeah, well, we can look at that chart. I mean, this was a pretty good chart.
I'm
Yeah,
still
Tesla
seeing
doesn't look
people
too bad.
talking about I might buy it at 30.
Oh my God.
Buying Tesla at 30.
Yeah.
Get out of here.
I mean, it could come down to 44.93 on my chart.
It's not going to.
No, it's not going to.
And like, I'm sorry, if it gets down to 30, I am selling my house. I am literally doing everything possible.
Yeah, no shit.
Yeah.
All in. Look into that volume. God bless. That's just stupid. That's shenanigans.
It is a lot of volume to only do 100% and not get back to 300. I'll give them that argument. But that's volume. That's volume. And it had a green week.
I know, and I successfully traded it short a couple times this week too.
Oh, that's impressive because
I know.
considering the premiums are retarded.
It was.
I can't use that word, right? Are insane.
Yes, please don't use that word.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, no, I've taken more short swings the last 2 weeks than I don't even remember when, and they've worked out.
Yeah, but that's
not to humble brag, but I don't buy puts or go short often, and when I do, I'm like a long-tailed cat in a room full of rocking chairs. I'm just waiting to get smashed, and they work out. And I'm like, holy shit.
But like, if you were talking about how encourage me to be bullish, weekly chart on Tesla green, weekly chart on Netflix green, weekly chart on Microsoft green, weekly chart on Q's green, weekly chart, I think even on Apple is green.
Yeah, a lot of weeklies did wind up being green.
Yep.
WC says snow.
Yeah.
Thoughts on snow? I actually expected snow to be looking a little stronger than that. I don't know.
Expected to have a positive earnings reaction and then come back and fill the gap.
Earnings is not this coming week, but the next week. Yeah, like right now I just feel like there's better opportunity out there from what we've just scanned on the call. But I don't dislike snow. It's come down a lot from its highest valuation in the entire market.
I think you could play it over 208 and use that as a pivot and be just fine.
So play it meaning you could buy here up to 208.
I mean, kind of like similar conversation that GP has said in gold, like either just take it off your radar and set an alert for 208, buy it at 208.
Oh, buy it higher. Got it.
Yeah.
Wait till it breaks out of the crazy range or be annoyed.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And that's a perfectly
Um,
viable strategy for all of these stocks, right? You don't have to mess with any of this. We can go sideways on all these stocks for multiple years. We don't know how much pull forward demand 2020 did, right?
Yeah.
And so we're coming back. My general thought process is we had this huge pull forward demand, markets went bananas, and now we are retesting a lot of the breakouts from 2020 in basing. And the basing will give us an idea of how long that could potentially last, and it could last multiple years. So I'm generally bullish. I think potentially if I was betting that we're going to go higher, but we could also, just like if you take Shop, for example, right? Shop to me was basing, it broke out, and then it kind of failed back into the base. So it could potentially go sideways for another 6 months or another 8 months or another 12 months or another 6 years, whatever the conversation here is. But so you can just wait for the actual breakout, right?
Yep.
If you don't want to be annoyed by all of this stuff.
Yep. Coin's a name that we got in the chat here. Coin's going to do what Bitcoin's going to do, and right now Bitcoin's trying to make a comeback to 25K, in my opinion. We'll see if it can, but it's still holding 24. 23.8 was my line in the sand for Bitcoin that it needed to sustain to remain bullish. It has on the weekly basis. Coin specifically, I wouldn't be surprised to see it want to build out maybe an inverse head and shoulders here. So I'm not saying that you're going to get prices in the 40s or low 50s. Wouldn't surprise me. It's kind of similar to what we saw with snow until it breaks out of this range that it's in. Like it might be a miserable trader for a little while. That's just my 2 cents.
Yeah, I wouldn't be playing it into earnings. You could either
Earnings in 2 days. That'll be Tuesday.
glory or death, right, is my opinion. And there's a lot of selling in coin. So it's just stuck, is my opinion, and can go either way as well.
Agreed.
Anybody want to talk about nat gas?
Sure. Talk about me buying some boil.
Yeah,
I should have bought some gush, but I bought some boil.
Jesus.
And I still think Boyle can get cut in half here. So
Yay. Awesome. Good talk.
Yeah.
All right, moving on.
I just think I think where nat gas continues, like we had a bullish week last week, not last week, but the week before that.
Yes.
And then it immediately failed the next week. And you're like, holy crap, this is still not ready, right? So I see the pivot breakout in 2020 retested like a few weeks later there. So that 185 level is where I'd be looking to see if buyers show up in droves. Tesla did kind of a similar pattern, broke out, came back to retest, and then on this downturn, we came back and retested that entire that kind of low area, based there for a couple of weeks, and then took off, right? So I don't think nat gas is going to zero. I would love to see it go negative, because if that's not a signal to buy the crap out of all nat gas,
no kidding.
I don't know what will be, but in terms of real trading scenarios outside of the oil being negative, 185 is what I'd be looking for, which is still about another 18 to 20% down from here. And so 18 to 20% is times 3 is around 50% for Boyle, because it's a 3x leverage.
Yep.
So I can see Boyle getting still cut in half here, which.
So I'm totally blaming this on our homie Big Greenie over at Charts for Charity. I was doing so great on my little option scalps, and everything was just going fine and dandy, and nat gas broke down, and he has traded nat gas like a champ in the past. And it's like, all right, I'm going to throw some on Boyle, and it's completely like casino play here. And I'm like, fuck it, I'm so flush with cash right now, let's buy some fucking Boyle. And goddamn, I feel like I'm the boiled crab in the pot now. So there you go. There's my boil story, Big Greenie. That's for you, homie.
Yeah, I still don't see any reason to be long oil. I mean, nat gas here.
Yeah.
Like none. And that's probably the best time to buy because there is really no reason to be bullish. But I think if we get to that 185, I got the alert set. I will be watching this very, very closely because that 185 I think creates a hell of an opportunity if we get there.
Too picky.
That's it. Look at it. Is that the monthly?
Yeah, this is the monthly.
Yeah, so you see that monthly, right? Like this is what you want to see from like an overarching kind of like time frame. Every month for the last 6 months has broken lower, or 5 months, whatever that is, right? So what we want to see on a monthly basis is not this happen.
You think?
And then you can talk about being long, but
I mean, since December, this bitch is down 69%.
And you know what? My utility bills haven't damn changed one.
Mine hasn't either. Mine actually went up, which I'm kind of pissed about.
Yeah, like why is my bill higher? Nat gas has got cut in half.
It's not that freaking cold in Georgia, even though my wife and kids thinks it's cold for some reason. Like, you guys want to go back to Colorado and let me remind you what cold is? We can do that. Nick's probably up there like flaring that gas.
I mean, I hope we get another cold. I'm not ready to be done skiing. So, I mean, I welcome the cold weather. I've never traded natural gas. I don't intend to.
No, but on those types of bottoms, you can get some insane gains.
Yeah,
in
for
those
sure.
3Xers. But until that happens, those 3Xers are absolutely misery because they reset every day. So the decay is actually more than the 50%. So like
Shit.
Yeah, it's just, it's not worth it. Those are designed to go to zero ultimately. So,
all right. We got like 5 minutes to go, guys. We already talked about things we like. GP, did you give us something you liked?
I don't think I did.
No, you didn't.
But I talked about XBI. I think the rotation.
Yeah.
IoTech. I really like
Disco.
Roku. I really like Roku. I like what it did. I love the 2 candle pattern on the daily. This is one of my favorite setups in the bull cap. Basically had a big move off of earnings from a big move, which is kind of crazy. And it then wicked off, right, because of ICANN's puts. And then spent the entire day, the next day, in the wick.
This is your reminder that Roku was a $480 stock at one time.
Yeah, and there was a different monetary policy.
Yeah, I know.
So I like this for a push to the 90s potentially.
Oh yeah,
here.
Oh yeah, that's where that line in the sand is right there.
Yeah. So I like this for a potential. It takes out Friday's highs, which is what, 73.48. I think it's an easy ride to 77, and then if we clear 77.91 comes pretty damn quick.
25% from here, give or take.
Then what it does after that, I don't know. There's a lot of dead bodies in Roku, so it'll take some time. But with all those dead bodies, what it did in all of last week is pretty damn impressive.
Hey, does this chart look familiar to what you were saying about energy and oil and oxy?
But yes, and that's the theme in XLV, XLU, XLP. These are all the names that people were hiding out in all of 2022 are all looking very similar. I just don't like the controlled descent on XLV, so I don't know if I'd want to actually short that.
Yeah. Slow bleed. Joseph Carlson asks, are there any signs that a company will be bought out that you have seen over your years of investing? I mean, low stock price. That'll get people snapping at you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not. It's out
Yeah.
of my wheelhouse.
Just curious.
Are we talking about Lucid here? I honestly don't know why someone would buy out Lucid when Rivian is cheaper.
How is old Rivian doing? Better places to fish.
There are, but if
Not
you're talking about
bad.
the EV space, right? Like this is, I would say Rivian is probably one of the biggest competitors to Tesla.
I made this observation the other day. I have seen more Rivian driving around in the last, I don't know, 2 to 3 months than ever before. Like I'm regularly seeing them on the road here
Yeah, up
in
here too.
Georgia.
Yep. See them here in New York area too. And what that's like, so like this conversation just continues to remind me of, I think that if you think about the smartphone market, it's iPhone and Android and then everything else. So if we're talking about EV
Rivian
market,
and Tesla.
I think Rivian and Tesla are the two.
It's not going to be General Motors or Ford or Volkswagen or Toyota.
I think they will exist. I just don't think they'll be the players, right? So, they're still in the camp of giving people what old gasoline cars used to like. We have in our family, right? This is just it's a anecdotal environment, but in the last couple of years, in our family alone, people have bought Teslas, and I think there's like 6 or 7 in the family now, and the overarching experience of every single one of those people is that it's just a better driving experience, right?
Yeah.
So smartphones were around before iPhone came along. Microsoft was heavy into the smartphone game and they got smoked, right? And there's still no smartphone from Microsoft because they're probably still bleeding from that. But
well, let's talk about Rivian for a minute then. Yeah. I mean, the highs were, 112. The high was 170 something dollars here.
VC's got to cash out.
I'm not saying it's going to do that, but like $50 reasonable.
Personally, higher. I think it goes. Depends on your time frame, though, right? So it right now, as of Friday, I think.
Well, tomorrow, next week. Well, I mean,
Rivian's an $18 billion company right now. Lucid, I think, is 19.5 or something like that. So I think Rivian has a better outlook than Lucid does, personally.
Yeah, I do too.
And so, like, if you're thinking about buyouts, right? Like the original question was buyouts. Like, why, if you were going to get bought out, why would you buy Lucid and not Rivian? Rivian also has the Amazon backing. They haven't sold one of their stakes at all, and they're.
I mean, it's not crazy at all to think that it couldn't get back to this 40 level and just base, right? Like that's completely reasonable.
Yeah.
I'm not saying by earnings. I'm not saying after earnings. I'm just saying at some point in the near term, like
this falls
months,
into
years
the Uber category for me. Like came in way too hot on valuation. Oh, yeah. So they're gonna have to prove themselves, and as they prove themselves, this chart will start to look better. But until then, it's gonna be this. It's gonna be this sideways to down to up pattern until they start proving themselves, and they haven't yet in terms of production. They're still not able to produce enough cars.
This 26 to 40 range could be support resistance.
Yeah. If I was looking at it like a long-term view, I'd be buying Rivian and Tesla and shorting Ford.
God, Ford just completely stepped on their dick, didn't they?
Yeah. So Ford reminds me of Black.
And actually GM looks good in comparison, that's been the other way around for a little while.
Ford reminds me of Research in Motion. You remember that one?
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. Yeah. That was a stock I learned how to like day trade on actually.
It was
when I
my
traded
first
GM.
investment ever, Nick.
Really?
GM looks so much better than Ford's chart, just so much better. It's not even funny.
Ford's in a world of hurt, man. They cut prices and now their margins that were barely hanging on are just back down to dead, right?
I actually like GM right here. Well, not maybe right here,
Ford,
but in
Ford
this
has like
zone.
over 100 billion in debt on their balance sheets. Survived the 2008 recession, but get smoked by Elon. That's going to be hilarious.
Yeah, not great. I like the Mach-E.
Terrible efficiency. Talk to anyone who's a Mach-E owner, and they're like,
I'm not saying like technology wise. I'm
Yeah,
just
yeah.
saying I like the look of the Mach-E.
you know, it's actually off the line. It's actually faster than the Y.
Wow, I did not know that.
And then 1 second later, the Mustang takes a giant poop stick and
I'm not versed because I'm not in the car market right now. But I like the look of the car. But yeah, womp womp. Hey, we're an hour.
Can we just talk about one more thing?
Sure.
Anyone looking at metals overall, XME?
I have
XME.
but
No,
would
I
love
looked at gold the other night and don't like it.
No, metals, not XME, not gold. God, never gold. Any thoughts on that chart? Because this looks insanely bullish to me, but
I mean, I'm looking at the monthly. I like it.
Yeah, I could be convinced of a bullish trade here, GP.
yeah, it had a almost a decade long base on the month. It broke out of that base and then retested it in 2022, and it's been holding. So, like looking at like the long-term patterns, it's still lower highs, but I like where it's kind of.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to see it come in too much lower.
No, but it's also the whole month has been just sitting in the top of the last month's range as well.
Yeah. Well, I went from the daily to the weekly to the monthly, and
you have the monthly MACD cross.
yeah. I mean, on the monthly, I think it looks best. Weekly, okay. Daily, not so good. That's why I'm saying I probably wouldn't want to see it coming any further.
Yep. Fair enough.
But yeah, if it can hold like 55, 54 and change.
Yeah, just
all right.
right around 53 and higher is what I would say.
Yeah, I would probably be out if I got. Yeah, I can see what you're saying, 53 and higher, but I probably wouldn't want to be in it if it dropped probably 54. I'd probably my stop is around there.
Nice. I was just curious on thoughts because I see it as on the bigger time frame being wildly bullish, and it's kind of choppy on the other time frames. So
The 9 on the monthlies at 51.80. So I mean, yeah, you want to. I mean, if you buy it here and it went down to 51, it wouldn't be the end of your world, probably, right?
no, this is not XME is not one that moves in like massive movements, right? So it would be buying lots, right? So from here I would buy some at 53, some at 51, right? And then build. All right, that's all I got.
XME.
Awesome. Well, thank you, gentlemen, yet again. It's always a pleasure. Thanks for everybody's patience over the last 2 weeks. But we're back. We'll always efforting a weekly show. Let's see how this week goes. GP's got me a little more bullish than I imagined I was going to come off of this call. But he's good for that. So we'll see. Maybe Tuesday morning, I'm like, fuck it, I'm buying puts on everything. We'll see. But yeah, I feel content, even though I gotta sell all my NVIDIA. I feel content.
NVIDIA and earnings, man, it's such a crapshoot, especially after this big move.
Well, all earnings are a crapshoot, right? So
NVIDIA always smells a little differently.
Yeah.
All
right, gents. Thanks for your time. Thanks for your efforts. Thanks to everyone who hopped in and caught the call. We appreciate you. But we will be back next week, and maybe we'll be